When I am in a creative mindset, I'm remembering that conversation that I had, and I'm connecting it to the magazine article that I read, and I'm like seeing the dots align. And for me, that's creative space.
Oh, I love that. And I'll tell you, for my creative process, I'm someone who more like gets a flash, like gets a moment. And I think that's probably why for wishing, for me, I'm inviting people to see almost a movie of their life in which everything, like in which a scenario is playing out, because that typically is those flashes of insight or those downloads or those moments come to me. And yet I find that where the rubber meets the road, or when you can actually materialize those ideas, is when you have that connective tissue, when you can step back and allow, you kind of capture those moments. And when I say capture those moments, for me, it has to be about writing it down, because I always, every day will have a moment, especially in the shower, which we'll talk about. When I have a moment, I have to write it down, because like a dream, I forget it.
Yeah.
But when you give yourself the time to then say, okay, let's capture the moment, let's capture the ideas, let's jot it down, and then step back or give it time, let it simmer, and then see if you can connect the dots.
Yeah.
Like what message is here, almost like you're trying to break a code and allow something to come into view.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's been so amazing about working with you on our big idea. So let's just take a moment. And this is not our opportunity where we're going to necessarily share our big idea. But one thing I do want to talk about is the beginning.
Okay.
So let's talk about the beginning. So if you've been following me and Wishbeads and my newsletter, you may have heard me talk about the vision I have to have over 1 million people wishing at once. This idea that we could collectively get so many people together, that there's an energy and a momentum where people are anchored in hope and positivity. So do you remember me, Vanessa, talking about this?
I do. I remember the cold call or whatever it was. I think you said, let's have a chat. And we jumped on Zoom together, and you said, check this out. I have this idea. And you kind of ran through that with me. And it was really exciting to think about, the broad range of possibility of what that could look like.
Yeah. Okay. But let's be even more honest. Cause like, you're right. It's exciting, but I think there is something here, and I'm not going to get upset, but also in that call, were there other feelings that came up, whether it was kind of like, I'm not so sure about this idea, or this sounds like wishful thinking, or how on earth, or like, really? Like, because I think,
I would say that I see what you're getting at. And I would say 10 years ago, I would have had a lot more of those feelings. And having gone through the process of having a design practice where I'm looking at how to kind of break down big ideas into manageable steps all the time, I think that idea struck me as like, okay, it's unformed, right? It's this kind of unformed grand idea that, you kind of could take all of these different directions. And I think at that moment I was feeling a little like, okay, that's like 10 years of time of like focused attention, or at least 2 full-time years. Like, that's a lot. And I think I definitely was feeling like, that's a lot, Alexa. Do you know how a lot that is?
Right. So when one has a big idea, you have to think about, who are you going to share this idea with, and for what purpose? Because sometimes if you get an idea and you're enthusiastic about it, you can be met with a lot of naysayers, those famous naysayers who are trying to save you from yourself. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy. These are all the reasons why this is unrealistic. It's not going to happen. Now, the leap of faith that I took many years ago when I had that idea, that download, was I believe in the power of sharing your idea, not necessarily saying, oh, I'm going to do this now, but I believe in the power of just keeping it top of mind, top of mind. It has a certain momentum. But the reason why I reached out to you in that kind of cold call kind of way, which was I've watched you build this unbelievable design studio, which I want you to talk about. And I've watched you put beautiful ideas actually into the world. And I knew there was a skill set that was going to be imperative for me to take this seed of an idea and really do it, because there was so much I didn't know.
Right.
And I still don't know.
Right.
And so there was this jump. But one thing I respect about you so much is that you did not give me from the beginning this lip service of like, that's amazing. We could totally do this. What you did was you created a space, like a safe space for possibility, without artificially jumping in and overly committing. You didn't commit. You said, this sounds really interesting to talk about. And I'm willing to talk about it with you on a very consistent basis to see if there's something here. And that to me was the first revolutionary step. It was a revolutionary step because it was a commitment. And for sure, we committed, just on a very practical way, friends listening and watching, to talk every Friday. And what a huge commitment. You know, I will
say, I want to add to that and say that it was a commitment to talk every Friday, not for 20 minutes. We put a 2-hour block in because we didn't know where those conversations were going to go. And I think that was also, at the time, felt like a lot of time that we were dedicating, you know, like a 2-hour window in, you know, 2 busy schedules is a lot of time. And we knew that it was going to take journeying through the conversation. And so we put a big block of time every week, and we did commit to that time. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Yeah. And we had messy, open-ended conversations.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about that, because that was the first thing that, number one, I so respected that there was some form of yes in your answer. I think intuitively I knew that there was such a good combination of talents here, and also just, you know, friendship and it just all the right things. And that there wasn't an ego part of me that was like, what, you're not all in from the beginning? Well, forget it. Like, you really were like, I'm not committed to say yes to this because I know what this is going to take. Yeah. And I'm not there, but I am going to commit. Like, you had a very healthy boundary. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you made the sacrifice of your time, that you were interested enough to give it some time. So thinking about that as it relates to maybe your life, those listening and watching, like, we have been so ingrained to have this instant gratification culture that we often cut our own possibilities because we just don't put in the time. Right. We just think like, oh, this didn't work for me once, or I tried that workout and it didn't work once, or I tried to eat this certain way for a week and it didn't work. Yeah. And we've lost the sense of commitment and patience and curiosity and open-endedness and exploration and play. And I think that we do ourselves a great disservice because we stop ourselves before the real work even begins. Right.